Politics. I'm your host, Darlene Price, and tonight we have a very, very special guest. We have Aaron Duquette from termlimits.com. You all know I've been preaching this for years, and we're rolling with it, folks. But before we get started, I have a couple announcements, and we want to always, as always, thank the people who make to make Truth to Politics happen. We want to thank Steve Hall and the folks with MBR TV who keep us on the air all the time. We want to thank Michael Mann, our executive producer of all things technical, without which we would not have Truth or Politics anywhere, and other locations that we haven't, because I can barely work my phone. So, we good, Dave?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay. Behind live TV, here you go. He's looking behind the scenes and like, oh, no, don't tell me something's wrong. Anyways, we want to thank everybody. We want to thank our viewers on Facebook. We want to thank our viewers on YouTube. And we want to thank Pulaski County Truth or Politics. We are live there. And later on, it'll be on the podcast in Louisville and also on YouTube for termlimit.com. Thank you guys for tuning in again. We're back. And we want to also do an announcement tonight. The Stearns American Legion Post 115 is going to do an Independence Day celebration on July 2nd. That's this Saturday. It'll start at 6 p.m. They're going to have all kinds of stuff for kids, family fun and entertainment. They're going to have fireworks at darkness at about 9 o'clock. And our band, I'm happy to say, Austin's Basement. For those of you who are familiar with our band, a lot of you are, we play real music. We play Doobie Brothers, Eagles, Rolling Stones, that kind of good stuff, Fleetwood Mac, those kind of songs. So anyway, the concert's free, everything's free, but they're going to be selling food. They're going to be selling like burgers and dogs and sodas and that kind of thing. So the food and drinks are being sold by the American Legion. Also, if you check out our Facebook page, you'll see that our elected officials have been served with a summons. They either have to pay $50 or show up. All of our, not just elected officials, but public figures have to show up and do a tour in the Dunkin' booth on Saturday. So come on out and pay, I think it's $1 a ball or however much they're charging for a ball to dunk your local official in the Dunkin' booth. And we're trying to raise some money that way. But everything else is free. Come on out Saturday. Starts at 6 o'clock. The concert is free, no cover charge, and the fireworks are free. And we're hoping, this is all weather permitting, we're going to do this outside. If something happens and it's pouring the rain, or if it looks like it's going to storm, the concert will be inside, and hopefully between 8 p.m. or 9 or darkness and midnight, it'll stop raining long enough to do the fireworks. Go ahead.
Are you going to participate in the Dunkin' booth?
No, I have been.
I was going to ask that.
I know, that's what they are saying. They're saying, Darlene, you can raise $1 million in one night because of all the people that you've heckled along the way. But I can't do both. I can't be getting ready because we have to set up to play and then to play and be in the Dunkin' booth. So I can't do both. So I humbly apologize. We'll arrange a day where it's just me in the Dunkin' booth. So, and then everybody come out and pay money for the Dunkin' booth. We'll have to reschedule that. But some of the other folks that you would know and love from the courthouse and stuff, they're going to be in the Dunkin' booth, and some other folks. So hopefully we'll have a good group in the Dunkin' booth.
We'll be there too.
Steve Hall, I tried. I got to serve a summons on you, Steve Hall. Our owner operator, Steve Hall. He's going to have to do a summons too. We'll get him. So anyway, come on out. It's this Saturday. It's open to the public. Everything's free but your food and drinks that they're going to sell, and the balls to throw at the Dunkin' booth. And they're going to have, let's see, limbo, water balloon, dodgeball. What else are they going to have? All kinds of fun games for kids. The kids' games and stuff in the Dunkin' booth starts at 6 p.m. The band starts playing at 8 until it gets dark. Then they'll set off the fireworks. Then we'll resume playing until midnight. So come on out and enjoy a public event. Now I want to, very, very happy to introduce Mr. Aaron Duquette. He is with termlimits.com, folks. For those of us, or if you're new to Truth or Politics, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you up in Pulaski County, Louisville, and here. But most people follow us know that I have been pushing for term limits and this termlimits.com for ever since I heard about it, years, and I want to introduce this fine young man. First off, Mr. Duquette, tell us where you're from, tell us about you personally first and how you got involved in this. Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. So thanks for having me today. My name is Aaron Duquette. I'm a resident of London, Kentucky, and I happen to be the Central Regional Director for a group called U.S. Term Limits. U.S. Term Limits is the oldest and largest advocacy organization advocating for term limits on Congress, going back all the way to 1992. And so what we do is principally we are focused going state by state in order to put term limits on Congress.
Okay, and I want to talk about, we posted, when I saw this guy testifying, and this is your boss, right? This guy testifying in front of Congress. We have posted that. We did a whole show around it, and it is posted on YouTube. I want you to talk about that. I wish you had his words again, too, but you can probably relate pretty much what he said. This guy, his boss, literally went in front of U.S. Congress and just nailed them. I mean, it was too good. If you get a chance, you need to go. How can they get to that, straight to that?
I think if you just go, I usually go to Google and, in YouTube and just search for term limits advocate. It'll pull right up. The thing went viral.
It did.
Millions and millions of views across different platforms.
And it's probably the best testimony in front of Congress I've ever seen. I've seen a lot because I've been up there twice myself, and I keep up with this stuff. That has to be the best, 4 minutes in front of Congress ever.
It's satisfying.
It's very satisfying for those of you, especially if you believe in term limits. Well, tell us more about this,
Sure.
how it got started, what is termlimits.com, explain it, so the layperson can understand it, and there you go.
Yeah, so U.S. Term Limits was founded way back in 1992 and has been around really with the principal focus on getting term limits on Congress. And the first way...
That's our U.S. Congress, right? That's our Nancy Pelosi's federal level, yeah.
Exactly. Your Nancy Pelosi's, your Mitch McConnell's, your Grassley's, and your Leahy's, all them. And so, it was founded with the express purpose to put term limits on Congress. And they had a very early success. From the years 1992 to 95, they were successful in working with not just voters to get ballot initiatives moving for term limits on Congress, but also worked with state legislatures. And they got 23 states to pass some form of term limits on their own congressional delegations. So each state would have a different term limit, varying lengths, but they would have that decision and they would always have representation in Congress. And so there was a great deal of really forward movement in the movement for term limits on Congress. It was wildly popular then, as it is now. And what happened, unfortunately, is somebody that was a congressional incumbent in Arkansas didn't like the Arkansas law that was passed, challenged it all the way to the Supreme Court, and in a 5-4 split decision, the court decided that all the 23 of those laws were null and void on the grounds that only a constitutional amendment, which applies across the board to any member of Congress, regardless of state, could apply term limits on Congress. So the whole slate was wiped clean, right? Back to absolute square one. And so what we do now is following what the Supreme Court told us we have to do, which is to pursue a constitutional amendment for term limits on Congress. It's the only way we can get it done. Sometimes when we talk to people out there, in the public, and I understand, we want people to just go and have a referendum and vote it in, right? The voters overwhelmingly want it. 82% of the voters nationwide want term limits on Congress. It's 84% here in Kentucky. We're 2 percentage points more smart than the average American, I think. And we just know it's a common sense thing. It doesn't matter about your party affiliation. It doesn't matter about your demographics. Everyone understands this is a good common sense reform that's way overdue. So that's what we pursue. We pursue a constitutional amendment for term limits on Congress, and we can get into a little bit about how exactly that works.
And how is that, people, because I've talked to people about it, and one of the things that, well, wait a minute, do we want to amend the Constitution? And it's like, our forefathers developed the Constitution so it could be amended. That's why women have the right to vote. Y'all you women out there that like to vote, That came with an amendment to the Constitution. The abolition of slavery, amendment to the Constitution. I could go on and on and on and on. How many amendments do we have so far?
27.
27, yeah. So this would be the 28th, hopefully the 28th amendment. Go ahead.
I'm really glad that you say that because I think sometimes out there, I guess we live in very difficult times. There's a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of political uncertainty. Folks are understandably nervous, right, about things, especially when you bring in the Constitution to the matter. But the fact remains that the Constitution was written with an amendment provision in there because the founders understood what they came up with was pretty good, but they spent months fighting about it, right? And there were a lot of compromises made, and they knew that situations would change, that they would have to, on occasion, produce amendments to remedy new situations and fix defects in what's existing. So we can sometimes get into a kind of a rigid and frozen understanding of the Constitution. It's not to say that the Constitution has to be this completely fluid thing, but they did intend that on occasion the people and their state legislatures and Congress would propose amendments in order to rectify new situations that arise.
And how does one do that? Explain the mechanics now of that.
Sure, yeah. So if you got your pocket Constitution at home, you can pull it open and take a look. And it's actually a very short article in the Constitution. It's actually one sentence, very long sentence, with multiple clauses. But here's what it is. Article 5 in the U.S. Constitution provides, firstly, the means for proposing amendments, and then secondly, the means for ratifying amendments. So two-step process. There has to be proposed, and then it needs to be ratified. So there's no direct process of just throwing a new amendment in there. It is a two-part process, and for good reason. So the first way that we're much more familiar with is the one that's actually been used 27 times for all 27 amendments, which is that 2/3 supermajorities of both chambers of Congress propose an amendment. So it has to clear with a 2/3 supermajority from both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. And then if it's gotten to that point, it's officially proposed, and then it's sent to the state legislatures. At that point, 38, so it's 3/4 of the state legislatures, so 38 states today would need to ratify that amendment for it to become part of the Constitution. If they fail to ratify it, then it is null and void. Sometimes there's even a sunset clause on an amendment proposal, so it expires after a certain amount of time. But that's how it works. We're pretty well familiar with that from sort of, I'm 40 years old, so I had the Schoolhouse Rocks, back in the 80s and that sort of thing. And we're pretty familiar with that process, but what's not been so well known to many until recent times is the other half of that Article 5 proposal process is that not only can Congress propose amendments, but the states collectively can propose amendments. So what happens is when 2/3 of the state legislatures, today that's 34 states, pass a resolution in the state legislatures calling for a single topic amendments proposal convention on an agreed upon topic. So ours is term limits on Congress. Then all 50 states are invited to the table. They meet in what's called an Article 5 convention. This is not what's called a constitutional convention. What happened in Philadelphia is an entirely separate situation, right? Those commissioners that were there on explicit written detailed instructions to forge, either significantly revise the Articles of Confederation or to create a new document, which is exactly what they did. An Article 5 convention is pursuant to our existing Constitution, and it's simply a means by which the states can circumvent Congress to go around them to propose an amendment that Congress would be reluctant to propose, like term limits on Congress. I like to say that...
I want you to repeat that.
Yes.
This is important, that
Yeah.
it is a way for the states to circumvent our U.S. Congress, who are never going to pass term limits on themselves, and force it on our U.S. Congress, correct?
That's correct, yeah. Asking Congress to vote for their own term limits is like asking chickens to vote for Colonel Sanders. They're going to end up on the menu, right? And they know that. They absolutely know that. And it would behoove them to get behind it, actually, because it's widely popular with the people. But they know that would mean I can't have my career. It's 82% approval in the public. I don't know what other issue you can get that much unification about than term limits, but they don't do it. And it's for obvious reasons. It's human nature when you have power to consolidate that power and jealously not give it up. That's why the framers were very smart in providing for this other provision by which the state legislatures can stand up for the interests of the people and push back on the federal government to get things proposed that they're reluctant to propose. So that's what we're doing. We work state by state, and including in Frankfurt, to get our single topic, Article 5 application for term limits on Congress, to get that resolution to get that constitutional amendment proposed.
How are we doing in Kentucky and through Frankfurt? Tell us where we're at and what needs to still be done.
Yeah, I'll be real frank with you. It's a tough slog in Kentucky. And we have, I've talked with just about everybody in the legislature. Personally, we have a team that makes phone calls into candidates. We have a pledge program that we have, so we're trying to get people that are running for state office to sign a pledge to co-sponsor and vote for this resolution. And I can say, I think, I would put it this way. I believe we definitely would have a chance to pass, provided that leadership would actually step up to allow that process to happen. In the last 2 years, we've filed and we have never even come up with a committee vote. This is something that 84% of the Kentucky voters, regardless of party, want to see happen, and we can't even entertain the discussion.
Well, how do we overcome that? Tell us about termlimits.com and the petition. Now, can that petition overcome this? Because that's what I'm hoping you're going to tell me.
So there's a few things, actually. So at termlimits.com, which is our website, you'll see it as soon as you get there. There's a petition you can sign. It's very simple. What that does is it adds your name to the petition list, but it also loops you in on our email list, and then you get clued in when we have calls to action, when we're actually taking action, and we were trying to call it for committee vote, when we're trying to push legislators to vote yes, you'll be looped in on all those things. In events that we have going on, you'll be looped in on that as well. So that's the basic step that you can take. Another thing that I really want to kind of expose to everybody here too is something we've started more recently this year. We realized we got a federal problem that we're trying to solve by way of the state legislatures. But an unfortunate aspect of the way things are with the state legislatures, they're not motivated enough to push back, actually take up the responsibility and the duty that they have to push back on.
And do what they promised the citizens when they campaign they will do, and that is, I will represent you. And if our state legislatures, that's your state representatives, your state senators from Frankfurt, if they were representing what you want, they would already be doing that. Now keep that in mind, because a bunch of them are up for election this fall. Okay, so, and they have not done that. So, what else can we do to force them to do what they, should be doing, representing we the people?
Yeah, so we realize it's a federal problem we need to solve with the states, but the states, frankly, need a kick in the pants, right? Hey,
Right.
Get off your duff and let's get this done. You can solve the problem, but you're not solving it. And this is the problem, not just in Kentucky. I mean, it's just human nature to settle into a sort of subserviency to the federal Congress. So what we have is, I think is going to be the difference maker, especially in Kentucky, is that we've started this here. We are going county by county to both the Democratic and Republican parties in the counties, the local central committees, and presenting to them what we're doing here. We're well received wherever we go, right? And we're asking them to pass endorsement resolutions at their central committee meetings, saying, the Pulaski County Republican Party is calling upon the state legislature to pass this U.S. term limits resolution for term limits on Congress, or the Laurel County Democratic Party, such and such. It's the same resolution, and basically all it is it's symbolic, but it actually has teeth, because those legislators in those counties or near those counties are going to notice that, right? We put out a press release about each one. We let the media know. People catch on. They know this is going on. And this mounts the pressure that we need to get it done. So I look at it this way. If we have an opportunity to present and actually come to a committee hearing and point out, hey, these 11 or 12 counties have endorsed this legislation. They want to see it happen. It's going to have a face to the 84% that we throw at them. It's not just a number. It's actually people.
Also, this petition, people who sign this petition, does that not have some teeth too, and let them know, look, we got this many people have signed a petition that they want you, our representatives, to represent us and do something. Does that not help too?
That's right, absolutely. Yep.
Did you have any questions? No? Okay.
Well, I do have one thing.
Yes.
I watched the thing, I think it's still on YouTube, but unfortunately I can't think the name of it. But it was where the senators and stuff, they went to meet lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had like a motel that they go to. And they would give them money, campaign contributions, you know, to pass bills and stuff that they want. So these guys are being paid very well for what they do. And they are going to be very reluctant to lose that position.
That's exactly, excuse me, that's exactly right. One of the positive effects of term limits being in place is that it's going to totally frustrate DC lobbyists. It's really comical because sometimes, you know, legislators that want to dodge this issue, they'll say, oh, well, the lobbyists will run the show, you know, if we have term limits in place, like they don't now, right? And lobbyists uniformly oppose term limits. Why? It's obvious.
Because they got their guys bought off already.
Yeah, their bread and butter is who they know. They're professional people that know people, is what I say,
Yeah.
right? And so they don't want to, I mean, we don't technically use Rolodexes anymore in the modern age, but, you know, it's like ripping out a third of your Rolodex every election cycle, having to start over with the relationships, actually having to compete with different lobbyists, rather than kind of getting cozy and just sitting in the jacuzzi and, you know, making it work. I mean, we talk about the need of experience in DC. We have the most experienced Congress in history right now, if you consider all of their legislative experience before that in the states. And where's that getting us? It's not
Yeah,
getting us
and it don't matter what party either, or who's president, because let me tell you, for the last, 3 or 4 presidents, we've had Democrat presidents and Republican presidents. What has Congress done? They've screwed us over. I'm sorry, but they just are. At the federal level, they're so bought off, and we're never going to get campaign finance reform until we boot out the people up there. And that's both parties. Because these parties, I think, are destroying this country at the federal level. They are. They're divisive, they're bought off, and the only way to get change, folks, you know, Albert Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is when you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. When we, the people, the voters out there, keep voting the same idiots in, you know, over 94% of them, again, this last time, got right back in again.
I got 2 comments when you bring up campaign finance reform that really drive home what you're saying.
But we're not going to get it until we fire the people up there. And the only way to fire the people up there is termlimits.com. So go ahead.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, elections by themselves right now aren't cutting it. I mean, how many of you watching right now, you go to the voting booth and you feel like, well, I'm choosing the lesser of 2 evils, right? Almost every time. You know, you might have one hero that you like, but most of Congress is just flat out a failure. 2 things. With regard to the corporate super PACs, right, that really influences the campaign funding.
And I call it money laundering, because used to, what they call super PACs now, all of this hiding of money used to be illegal. It used to be a felony. You would go to prison for doing this. Now your Congress, that's Mitch McConnell, that's, you know, all the people from Kentucky, that's Nancy Pelosi, I don't care what party they're from, they're all a part of it. They're all benefiting from it. They have watered down laws to where they've made bribery to Congress by big pharma, big oil, I call them the bigs, all the big industries who run Congress, they have made that legal.
Those super PACs that represent those interests, they give 97% of their campaign contributions, those super PACs, to incumbents.
Right.
That means only 3% of the super PAC money goes to challengers. What does that tell you? It is not about Democrat, Republican. It is not about blue and red. A friend of mine likes to say, it's all about green. That's really what it's about. And here's another stat that goes right along with that. Congressional incumbents win re-election 96% of the time. You tell me that they're so great that the American people just love them and keep voting them in. I would love to vote certain people out. I can't, and think about the amount of money, I mean millions, that it takes even to equal the name recognition of an incumbent is through the roof, and precludes many qualified people who just don't have that kind of funding, right? And so it makes it very difficult. So term limits will throw a wrench into that as well, because now you're going to have periodic open seat elections. The parties will always try to anoint, the next one, of course, but it allows for more factions within the parties saying, no, we don't like him, we're going to go with this guy. And that benefits the voter. It's just like with antitrust law.
Well, not only that, if I have half a brain of a conscience, okay, and I know, well, my term limit's up. When I leave, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to vote for campaign finance reform because I got nothing to lose. I can't be reelected. Right. That's the only way I think we're going to get campaign finance reform. And I want to key on something that I said that I got leveled for, and I don't care. I'll say it again. Back when, you probably may not remember this or not. Remember our governor, Matt Bevin? I know some of you guys hate him, love him, whatever. Before he became our governor, one-term governor, he ran against Mitch McConnell. He came on the show. And I said this, there was a big audience. You were there, right? Big crowd there, and I interviewed him. And I said this to him. I said, well, what are you going to do when Mitch McConnell, who has already $22 million, at that point he had $22 million, when he starts slinging mud at you, Mr. Bevin, which he will do, he will make stories up, because that's what Mitch McConnell does every time, and you, the voters out there, are suckers. You fall for it. You fall for his lies that he makes up on whoever is, even his Republican opponents, okay? Because Bevin was a Republican opponent running against him. What are you going to do when he does the $22 million? I said, let me tell you, if Jesus Christ came back to earth tomorrow and decided to make some kind of point and run for U.S. Senate against Mitch McConnell, and he proved up to everybody on earth that yes, he's Jesus Christ, and you all believed it was really Jesus Christ. Once Mitch McConnell got through with $22 million or more and slung mud at Jesus Christ, none of you guys would vote for Jesus Christ. You'd vote for Mitch McConnell. That's the problem. And Matt Bevin his jaw dropped, and that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I said, yeah, watch. Sure enough, that's what happened. He made up all kinds of stories on Matt Bevin, and we tried to expose it, and other people did, that it just wasn't true. And, I'm sorry, but, voters get played, and that's what happens. That's why money, there's a song out there, money owns this town. That's the theme song, I say, in Washington, D.C. Money owns that town. And if you all run enough ads, enough money against any good opponent, it just smears them, and voters don't know what to do. Go ahead.
You couldn't be more correct about that with regard to Mitch McConnell. Now, this isn't about picking out him particularly.
I'm just picking on him right now.
I could say the same thing about Nancy Pelosi and her $250 million net worth. We can go on all day. But specifically to Mitch, because we're in Kentucky, right? And he is, I'll say it, he's the principal obstacle for this legislation. And I've had sitting legislators tell me this, that, I support it and all, but I can't sign the pledge because, Mitch McConnell really helps me out with my campaign, and he's been known to call up legislators on the cell phone and give them the what for getting behind anything with term limits, congressional, their own, town dog catcher, anything. Secondly, we found a video a couple of years ago. Mitch McConnell introduced a constitutional amendment back in 1995 to repeal presidential term limits. He really does not approve of term limits at all. So at least he's consistent, but that is woefully out of touch with just about everybody.
Yeah, and again, we're just picking on Mitch McConnell because he's here, he's in Kentucky, because I know we got a lot of Tennessee viewers. Actually, we got people all over we got people in Barcelona, Spain that watch this show. Long story how that happened. But anyways, but it's not just a Republican thing. The Democrats at the federal level are just as bad, if not worse. They're just as bought off, Nancy Pelosi, all that group up there. They are just as bad. And the way to get rid of this, folks, is, and my way of thinking is termlimits.com. Please, get your phone out. Go on termlimits.com. Tell them what will happen.
Yeah, if you want to help us out too, you actually want to get actively involved, what you can do is go to termlimits.com and click the volunteer button. and that will put you in touch directly with me. We're going to be active, getting these county resolutions passed. We're active in several of the states that are in my region passing these. It almost always passes, and very often unanimously. The people overwhelmingly want this. Folks, if you are tired of yelling at your television screen every night about how you feel like your country is falling through your fingers and you don't have any say or any kind of influence on it, this really is a very tangible way you can have an enormous impact, because you're going to put the sufficient pressure on your state legislature in Frankfurt to stand up and take charge and actually do something about this problem, because it's just not going to happen without the fire coming from all you.
Termlimits.com. Okay, folks, we can start taking calls here if you have any questions. We're at 376-5000, 606-376-5000 if you got any questions or comments. And again, like I always say, please keep it clean and stuff, because we do have a lot of college kids that watch this show for poli-sci classes and stuff. Also, here's a free long distance call, 372-0002. What area code's that, guys? 372-0002, is that 606? No, listen. It's either 423 or 606 area code.
No area code.
No area code. Oh, just dial 372-0002. That's the long distance free call, or 376-5000. And we'll be able to start taking calls if you guys want. I don't know how much time we have left, because I don't have a clock there. What do you got?
Half hour.
Got a half hour, 30 more minutes. So, what has been done so far? What's the success rate? Where are we at in Kentucky moving this forward so far?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give props to our lead sponsors. So we've filed basically mirror sister resolutions in both chambers in Frankfurt. It gives us ability to kind of determine which way we want to start from. Sometimes you can run both chambers at the same time, but it's one piece of legislation. So Representative William Lawrence is our lead sponsor in the House. He's done that for the last couple of years. And this year we also had in the Senate side, Stephen Meredith was our lead sponsor. Both of these guys have signed the U.S. Term Limits Pledge to co-sponsor and vote for this resolution.
Where are they out of? Because I want to send them a thank you letter.
I want to say William Lawrence is way up north, way up, I don't remember exactly, and Stephen Meredith, I think sort of more westward. That's a terrible answer to your question.
That's all right.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand, but yeah.
That's good that we got
Yeah,
some people up there that are representing the Kentuckians like they're supposed to.
Right.
And what you guys can do too is find out who your state rep is and who your state senator is. Here it's Upchurch, and who's the state rep? I forget. It was Wise, but now they gerrymandered and did something.
I haven't paid attention to the
Just
redistricting
whatever
yet.
county, all you got to do is Google state senator, state rep, and then put your county in Kentucky, and it'll come up. Like, just Google it, and it'll come up. And then send them an email. I want termlimits.com passed.
There you go.
There you go. Start putting pressure on them. You guys can help out. But just by doing, everybody's got their phone. Do it right now. Pull your phone out, Google state representative, McCreary County, Kentucky, or state senator, McCreary County, Kentucky. The name will come up. They'll have a website. They all have websites. Go to the website. Email them. I demand termlimits.com. And for them to pass at the state level. How are we doing across the United States? Tell us where we're at with that now.
Yeah, sure. So U.S. Term Limits is our team is a very small remote team. Probably about 25 of us all together, spread out throughout the country. We all work from home or from the road all the time and travel around from state to state to get this done. And we have passed this resolution through 5 states. Florida was the first. Alabama.
Yay, Florida. Yay, Alabama. Okay.
On a bipartisan basis, I may add. So Florida, Alabama, Missouri, West Virginia, last year. Yes, I think it was last year. And then also just this year we've had Wisconsin get on board as well.
Cool.
So, and especially with West Virginia, that's our neighbors, right? They're putting us to shame. They pass us with absolute flying colors. I mean, 75% of the chambers, both chambers passing it, just knocked it out of the park. And they understand, we need to put term limits on Congress, because we're not just, I don't know about you, but when I go to campaign events and I see the rhetoric comes through, it's always, every 2 years even, this is the most important election of our lifetime. Every single time it's that. It's like, is this going to perpetually be the case? Like, when does this stop? It's really, I'm sick of that kind of rhetoric. I'm thinking, maybe the elections alone are not solving our problems. We knock one party out and then they come back in. We knock them, it's just a ping pong back and forth. While the real essential problems in America are not being solved because Congress, it's an incumbency problem. It's not a party problem.
Well, and let's go back, it's a money problem, because there's two parties at the federal level, they're both bought and paid for, and what happens is, you had Republicans in there, and then everybody got mad at them. Now you got the other bought-off party. They're in there. Now everybody's mad at them. They'll go back to Republic. But it's just a seesaw. And you know what? My son, I don't know if he made this up himself, God love him, but he says this all the time. It's just opposite sides of the same bought-off coin at the federal level. Well, it's state level too, but at the federal level. So that's why we're getting nowhere. That's why, folks, these U.S. senators, these U.S. congressmen and women, they don't return your calls. They don't care about what you have to say. The only people they have on speed dial are big pharmaceutical industry, big oil industry, people who can funnel millions and millions of dollars, and then what they get in return is they write the bills. The private industry writes the bills, hands them to the Congress. I literally had a congressman tell me this once off the record. He said, what happens is they'll come to you and they'll say, here, we're going to put $30 million or whatever into your campaign, and if you don't do exactly what we tell you to, and if you don't present this bill, I hate summertime bugs. If you don't present this bill, we're going to primary you. We're going to back your primary opponent, and guess what? They all vote like a cheap suit. That's what happens. They take the money and then they do exactly what big pharma, this is why the medical industry, for those of you who pay so much for health care and you don't get health care, for those of you, how you like your $5-6 a gallon soon-to-be gas, which the oil and gas industry is hosing you people. Yes, I believe that our president is an idiot, and he's not solving the problem. He's doing nothing about it. But the oil and gas industry is playing. Somebody do something about this bug. Is playing us, and they're getting rich off of blaming Joe Biden, which Joe Biden should be doing something about it. I'm not protecting him. I think he's an idiot too. But this is how it works. You're all getting played, and you're all getting hosed by private industry, because your elected officials are bought and paid for, and the only way to change that, I'm telling you, folks, is term limits. Go ahead.
I got to tell you, I don't know if people realize this, but when we send our congressman and senator to D.C., I think what we think is, okay, we voted them in to go, do legislator stuff, write bills, debate them in committee and so forth, and work on those bills. Hardly. They spend 60 Minutes did a piece on this years ago. They spend 50 to 60% of their time in a cubicle dying for dollars. I mean, like a telemarketer with way more sway on the other end, calling up funders and asking them to donate to the party. And they even have, and if you've seen this, you can see this online, they have like a scoreboard for the parties. And here's where you are, and they'll be pretty explicit with them. This is how you get your chairmanships. In other words, if you want to go to Congress and make a difference, you run, you're bright-eyed, and you have really good ideas, you have a good heart, you want to do something for your country, you're patriotic. You get there, and then you're told this. So you're in a position of, I put aside my business, and I'm thinking maybe I'll go in for 8-10 years, come home, have a business, and get a wife, right? Go live under the laws that have been passed when I was there. But if you're looking at that, now you're thinking, well, this is my career now. And I actually tallied this up with the current leadership and chairs and vice chairs in our current Congress. I looked at their total tenure and the average amount of time that these members of leadership were serving in Congress before they were given their first committee chairmanship, which is where you start to flex your muscle and to set the agenda and actually be influential, right? The average amount of time before that first chairmanship happened was 18 years in the House and 21 years in the Senate. I mean, 2 decades before you then start influencing. By that time, even the best of people, you're going to have your values worn out and warped by that time.
And you're going to be so bought off, you can't function. This is why we got to, if term limits are good enough for the President of the United States, 2 terms, then they should be good enough for our U.S. Congress. Period. End of story, folks. These guys and girls, they don't need to be up there. 2 terms for a senator, if you can't get something done in 12 years, your butt needs to go anyway. We got them up there. Most of them are up there over 25, 30 years. And think about this. Look at the position we're in right now. Okay? Look at where this country's going. The same people that you guys keep putting back in there, they've been there almost over 90% of them at the U.S. Congress level, U.S. senators. That's your Nancy Pelosi's, your Mitch McConnell's, your Hal Rogerses, all these cats up there. They've all been up there for over 30 years. Okay? Do they deserve another term? No. Fire them. But it's hard to fire them when they smear and make up lies that people believe, unfortunately, and they control social media and television and everything else. When you got millions of dollars to smear somebody, then, that's what happens.
Sometimes legislators, they like to, when we approach them about this issue, it's kind of clever that they all think they're making this joke for the first time, and it's not all that funny. They will say, well, I used to believe in term limits until I got here, and then I saw how things work, and I really kind of realized this is very intricate, doing the work of a legislator, and you need, 2 or 3 terms just to find out where the bathroom is their expression, right? And it's like, are you going to run on that? Is that your campaign speech? Vote for me for 3 times, then I'll start, figuring out where the bathroom is. I mean, come on, what a joke! If you ever talk to your legislators, folks, don't let them get away with that statement. It's an embarrassment. They're hired by the voters to be competent. Yes, there's always a bit of a curve learning anything, but it's not that much of a curve. It's an excuse to stay and make it a career.
And folks, these are not rock stars. One of the things I noticed, I ran for office 20 years ago, okay? I ran on a Democrat ticket for Jim Bunning's seat against, gosh, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but anyway, for Jim Bunning's seat on the Democrat ticket, okay? I'm a Republican now. But I am not a partisan person. People who know me I'll tell you, they know me that there's things I'm liberal about, there's things I'm very conservative about. Okay, so I'm basically a moderate Democrat or a moderate Republican, whatever you want to call it. But one of the things that I noticed, which just blew my mind, is how these people become like rock stars. Okay, and how. A good example, Jack Conway. That's one of the guys that I ran against in the primary. He won the primary and then he lost, okay? Jack Conway. I had women coming up to me during the debates, and almost every debate but for one, the people who held the debate posted that I won the debate, almost every time, against Jack Conway, okay? And against, I forget the other guy's name, but anyways, I had women coming up to me and say, you know what, I know I should vote for you. You're the best candidate. But that Jack Conway, he's just so good looking. I mean, those kind of comments. Now that wasn't, no, I'm serious.
I am too.
I'm not the only one that heard that. I had people with me when I was campaigning just look at me like, these were not stupid women either, okay? These were not women or like young girls or something. These were women that show up to these events who were his groupies. I swear that's what they were. And, these are well-dressed women, in their 30s and 40s, educated women that make those statements. And you will see that. These candidates become almost like rock stars. People become groupies to them. And, I'm having an issue with a local one in Pulaski County right now who, anywhere else you expose the kind of stuff we've exposed on him, and will continue, by the way, if you're watching. But he's got a bunch of groupies. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Do you not get that these people are not representing you. They don't care about you. They don't give a crap about you. Tomorrow, if you lay dead, they will not show up to your funeral. For you women, and there's men groupies out there too that are almost as bad, but the women groupies with some of these men, politicians, just, ladies, wake up. And smell you're getting screwed, okay? Because these politicians do not care about you at the federal level, okay? Go to term limits, let's start firing them all. I say it all the time. I've said it for how many years? 12 years we've been on the air. Fire them all and let God sort them out. Fire them all. Forget about this party crap. Fire them all. That's the only way we're going to get rid of them. And one of the tools for this is termlimits.com. Have you seen that too, what I'm talking about? How these politicians become...
Yeah, I have a theory. I think some politicians are like the guy that didn't make the student council, in high school. It's kind of like their revenge. It's kind of silly when you look at it in the, I don't know, there can be a cult of personality around politicians pretty frequently, especially in this day and age. And you go back to, the Kennedy debate, right, and how he was perceived, as winning the debate, whereas the Nixon won the debate for the radio listeners. It's part of, our culture is extremely visual with everything, and so that feeds into it. Absolutely, I see that on the trail. And it's silly. It's like vote for policies, not for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I say that again.
Yeah, vote for policies which make sense to you, that are moral to you, not personalities.
Right.
Well, they make millions on running campaigns. That movie keeps getting brought up, Wag the Dog.
That is a good movie.
Yeah, and it pretty much describes what's going on. And another thing that I thought of, and actually surprised me that they do this, but if they have an area, and I'm just going to use this as an example, like if you had a bunch of Democrats in one spot that has a real strong voting power, and then they've got Republicans in another spot, and they're afraid that the Democrats going to get voted in, they'll change the lines.
Gerrymandering.
Yeah.
Yep.
They'll move the lines and they'll break that voting power up to where it'll dissolve that, to where they get who they want in there.
Yeah, there's so many problems going on at the federal level.
And every single problem too. I'll tell you what, I challenge anybody to call me up and say one single problem at the federal level that I can't directly track back to campaign finance reform. Go ahead, I dare you. Anybody call me and challenge me. Every single thing wrong with this country right now, the border issue, COVID, you name it. Any problem in this country, I promise you, I can connect the dots right back to campaign finance, and somebody's got somebody bought off at the federal level. Every time, 100%, challenge you. I double dog dare somebody to call up and name something wrong with this country that I can't track back. Go ahead.
No, I agree. To speak to the term limits remedying this problem, there are the seemingly insurmountable problems that we're facing that the federal government is failing to address can be fixed, but there's no political incentive for members of Congress to actually do it. Both parties will have pet issues that are like the red meat issues for their parties, that they'll trumpet out every campaign season. You got to get this in so that we can do X, Y, or Z, right? And they never end up actually doing it once they get the political supremacy that they want. They just fall back into their own habits because they're not motivated without term limits to get it done. Why? Because they know they're going to be there regardless of what happens. They're going to keep winning and winning and winning and make a career of it. So what's the impetus to do so?
And some of that, and I know people don't like to hear this, but, we keep it real here, folks. My son says, people like that word, keeping it real, until you keep it real with them. And a lot of that comes back to the voters. Sorry, but it is on you. It is on the voters to know who your candidates are, who's running against them, and fire them. Go to the polls and fire. Just forget about this part. And let's say you are a partisan person. Let's say I'm a diehard Republican, I'll never vote for a Democrat. Well, you know what? Almost every Republican in the primaries has an opponent. A Republican opponent that you can vote for and vote out these clowns every single time. And the voters don't do it. You just don't do it. And I just, you're being played. You're absolutely, the voters are being played. And the only way I can see to undo this is termlimits.com. So I see nobody's checking me up on my challenge. Come on. Did you have that set up? Good.
Well, I think something else we could talk a little bit about too is just more this claim that against term limits that we need institutional knowledge. Because
they need to be put in an institution, a lot of them, that's what
it's institutionalized knowledge. Well, I'll pick on Mitch McConnell again because, well, he picks on us. This need of, he said it last campaign. He said it in a debate with Amy McGrath, who's a pledge signer with us, by the way. Term limits came up in the debate, and he said, but having me in there allows us to punch above our weight for a small state and all this stuff. But it's the same response as you said. What's your plan for when he's gone? He's not 40, right? I mean, he's not going to be, even if he dies in office, I mean, he's going to be there not that much longer. Then what?
Well, here's the other thing.
All of those clout drops.
What has he done? Kentucky is consistently in the bottom 5 of everything. One of the poorest states, one of the least in education. And I'm picking on Kentucky because we live here, but there are other states too that, you keep electing the same idiots, and it's like, who do nothing for you. They have not done their job. If anybody ran a company, if I own a company and somebody came in and ran my company for me, like some of Nancy Pelosi's, Mitch McConnell's, and again, this is not partisan. The Democrats are as bad. Let me say that here too, okay, just as bad. If anybody came in and ran a company like they run our U.S. Congress, and what are we, almost $30 trillion now in debt? Hello? This house of cards is going to start falling. I don't see anybody talking about that or doing anything about it. Neither party. By the way, both parties, starting with George W. Bush, then Obama, and then, now we got Biden in there, and Trump, none of them have done anything about this debt. And this debt is going to cost us. I'm telling you, this concerns me, this trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. None of them are solving it. So, what do you got to lose, folks?
I think it's good that you bring up the national debt because actually it ties in with Article 5 history. In the 1980s, 70s and 80s, there was a movement, as there is today, but it's a different movement, for an Article 5 application to propose, through the states, a balanced budget amendment. And they got really close. They actually got to I think 32 or 33 states, so the 34 needed. And what happened was Congress said, don't go there, we'll take care of it. And they believed them for some reason. And here we are. Right? Yeah. And also, same thing in the 90s, they gave lip service to the Contract of America. A big plank of that, vote another Republicans because then we're going to get term limits on Congress. What they ended up doing is they had 2 or 3 different versions of a term limit proposal so that everyone jumped onto one of those, but none of them got the 2/3 supermajority needed. So everyone can go home patting themselves on the back saying, I supported term limits, but they didn't actually get term limits done.
Right.
I mean, this is the trick. We cannot just sit back and think that Congress is going to turn a new leaf and stop acting like Congress. They're not. I mean, there's a reason why their approval rating is about 18-19% perpetually.
But 94% plus get reelected every time. And I'm sorry, but I don't understand the mindset of a voter that, especially, if you're a party person, which I am not tied, neither should you be. Nobody should have loyalty to a party, to a political party. You know what I have loyalty to? I'm a veteran. I have loyalty to the United States of America. That's what I have loyalty to our veterans, to our soldiers. That's what I have loyalty to. I do not have loyalty to the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. I will vote your butt out. I don't care who you are, what party you're from, if you're not doing your job. That's how you people should be too. It's called accountability. Quit playing this party politics. And guess what? You don't even have to do that. Again, I'm going to restate this. Primaries matter. And in Kentucky, we have the lowest turnouts for primaries. What was the last one? This one was like 18% or something, this last primary. And most of your legislatures got right back in there, the same old ones, even though they had Republican people running against them, or Democrats had Democrats running against them.
You know what happens, actually, there's actually been studies about this, about state legislative term limits, because that's what they have to deal with. They've found that when there are term limits in place, that the voter turnout goes up. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Why? Well, am I really motivated if it's the same two schmoes, that I'm used to, and I'm like, I don't have anyone that really represents me? Or if you have an open primary, or open election altogether, right, then I'm like, well, I have real choices. I'm really motivated about this guy. I don't want that guy in. It motivates people and gives them a sense of enfranchisement again.
Right.
Because you have real choices at the ballot box. Right now, Ballotpedia has determined that only 20% of congressional races are really competitive races. That means we're not having races in many cases.
We're not. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was going to bring back up on the campaign contributions.
Yeah.
With them backing the people that they do, they kind of collect their little crowd. And so when it comes to voting, we only have our choice of their decisions on who to put in there. It's hard to get somebody new that would be actually for us rather than these people.
Yeah, money owns this town, and that's why termlimits.com. Tell people, we got 5 minutes left if you want to make a phone call. Tell people what they can do and how can help us solve this problem. When they go to termlimits.com, what are they going to see?
So the biggest thing is go to termlimits.com, sign our petition. That will get you looped in when I send out email updates of what's going on, when we're taking action, when we're having a Capitol Day in Frankfurt. You can join us. We can have some good times there. We had a bit of a cantankerous meeting with one of the legislators there. It was firmly anti-term limits, which was good. They needed to hear that pressure from them. So, but we have plenty of things that were going on with these county resolutions, getting them passed, approaching candidates who are running right now and want your vote to get them to sign our pledge to get behind this. There's plenty to be done, so you can go to termlimits.com/volunteer, and that will get you plugged in. You just fill in a little form, and that sends an email to me. I'll get looped in with you, and we'll go after it. You can also look into us on Facebook. Go to Kentucky Term Limits. It's called Kentucky Term Limits on Facebook. Also, U.S. Term Limits has a page or a channel in YouTube with plenty of content there. You can learn more about term limits as an issue, about Article 5, about everything we're doing around the country.
Yeah, the best thing to do is get educated, get involved. If you want to fire a Congress, it can be done, folks. We can do it. I believe in this. I'm going to do whatever I can to help. I want to know too, how can we get a group to make an appearance and testify in front of the state legislature like the guy did in front of U.S. Congress? How does that happen?
Yeah, so that's why we need the grassroots pressure that we're trying to get done, because unfortunately it's a select few members of leadership in Frankfurt that make those decisions, and the chairman of the committee that we're in, to even entertain us. I mean, you might think that any bill that's filed gets entertained and it's voted up or down. That's not how it works. Many bills are just held up and they never see the light of day. That's happened 2 years in a row here in Frankfurt, and it's inexcusable with 84% of the electorate wanting it. And so what we need to do is put pressure on those guys. Hey, you need to actually entertain this and give us an up-down vote. If you're going to vote no, but give us an honest shake. So that's what we're after.
Yeah, and hold them accountable. All right, folks. Okay, so nobody took me up on my challenge. So you believe me that, hey, every problem in this country could be tied back to campaign finance reform, which we can solve by term limits at the U.S. level. Okay, folks, we are out of time. We want to thank Mr. Aaron Duquette for coming on the show. Thank you so much and educating us. We'll have to get back with you. We're going to keep following up on this. What I'm going to do is on all of our Facebook pages and on our podcasts and everything else, we're going to post everything that they have. I'll help out. If you need me to come to Frankfurt, I'll come to Frankfurt. Whatever I need to do to help out with this, because I believe in it. I'm hoping you guys believe in it too out there, and we'll go from there. Also, I want to reiterate, folks, come on out. Enjoy the American Legion's doing a whole family fun day this Saturday starting at 6 o'clock, and it's a free concert, free fireworks. Everything's free but the food and stuff that they're going to sell to make a little bit of money. And also some of our public officials, you can throw a ball and dunk them in the dunk tank. So We will see. We want to thank NBR TV. We want to thank Michael Mann behind the scenes and from the scenes everywhere. We want to thank Pulaski County Truth or Politics. We want to thank Louisville, and we want to thank all of our folks watching us on Facebook that keep us out there, and our podcasts on YouTube. We will see you next time, folks, on Truth or Politics. Thanks.